What if I told you that setting your alarm for sunrise is the single biggest mistake you're making? That all those beautiful, peaceful mornings spent watching the sun come up were actually spent missing the best bite of the day? Sounds crazy, right? We've all been taught the same thing. Fish bite at dawn and dusk. But the truth is, by the time you see the sun, you're already late to the party. In this video, I'm going to show you why arriving right at sunrise is a rookie move that's costing you fish, and reveal the simple timing adjustment that can double your catch before most guys have even had their coffee. So, let me ask you this. Do you think the early bird gets the worm, or has that old saying been lying to us fishermen for years? Let's get into it. For generations, the image of the dedicated angler has been tied to that sunrise. It's romantic. It's what our grandfathers did. We see it in magazines, on TV shows. The lone fisherman casting as the first rays of sun hit the water. This idea is so deeply ingrained in fishing culture that we follow it without question. We drag ourselves out of bed in the dark, drive to the lake, and time our arrival perfectly with that first glimmer of light on the horizon. We believe we're being smart, that we're hitting a magic window. The problem is, this common knowledge is based more on human convenience and observation than on actual fish biology. We do it because it's what we've always been told to do, but fish don't operate on our schedule, and they certainly don't wait for the sun to give them permission to eat. It's time to question that tradition. Picture the classic scene. It's 5:30 a.m. You pull into the empty parking lot. The air is cool and still. You rig up your rod, grab your gear, and walk down to the water's edge, just as the sky starts to turn from black to a deep purple. You feel like you've beaten everyone else, that you have the whole lake to yourself. You make that first perfect cast into the misty water, full of hope and anticipation. The world is quiet, peaceful. It feels exactly like it's supposed to. This is the moment we all live for as anglers. It's the payoff for waking up so early. But as you stand there, working your lure through the silent water, you might be missing the subtle clues that the main event, the real feeding frenzy, has already happened. That perfect, serene silence isn't always a sign of impending action. Sometimes it's a sign that you've just missed it. Now let's talk about that first sign of trouble. You're there at first light, and the water is often like glass. It's beautiful, but it can also be lifeless. You don't see the nervous flicker of baitfish on the surface. You don't hear the telltale pop of a bass or trout slurping a bug from the film. That dead calm can be deceptive. Many anglers interpret this as the quiet before the storm, the moment just before the bite turns on. The reality is often the opposite. This stillness can be the aftermath. The predators have already done their primary feeding in the final hour of true darkness and are now beginning to retreat to cover as the light levels increase. You've arrived not for the opening act but for the curtain call, when the most aggressive fish are already full and heading for their daytime haunts. The lake isn't waking up. In many ways, it's just starting to go to sleep. So let's talk about the critical transition period. This isn't sunrise, this is the pre-dawn window, the hour from pitch black to the very first hint of grey in the sky. This is the real magic hour. During this time, the world is still dark to our eyes, but massive changes are happening. Nocturnal predators are finishing their night's hunt, while diurnal, or daytime species, are just starting to stir. It's a period of overlap and immense vulnerability for baitfish. They are moving out of their nighttime hiding spots but don't yet have the full benefit of daylight to spot predators. This creates a chaotic, target-rich environment. The biggest, smartest predators in the lake know this. They use this final cloak of darkness as their ultimate advantage. They aren't waiting for the sun. They are actively exploiting this transitional period of low light to ambush their prey with maximum efficiency. Here's a hard truth we need to accept. Fish are not waiting for the sun. They don't have a little alarm clock that goes off when the first ray of light hits the water. This is a purely human projection. Fish are driven by instinct, by light levels, water temperature, and the movement of their prey. For a predator, bright sunlight is often a disadvantage. It makes them more visible to their prey and to bigger predators, like birds of prey from above. The dim, ambiguous light of pre-dawn is their perfect hunting ground. It gives them all the advantages. They can see the silhouette of their prey against the faintly lightening sky, while they remain hidden in the shadows below. By thinking that the bite turns on with the sun, we're fundamentally misunderstanding the predator-prey dynamic. The bite doesn't turn on at sunrise. For many species, that's when it starts to turn off. Let's consider what actually happens in the dark. Many of our target species, like largemouth bass, walleye, and big brown trout, are crepuscular feeders. That's a fancy word meaning they are most active during the low-light periods of dawn and dusk. But that activity doesn't start at sunrise. It peaks and then fades. They spend a good portion of the night roaming and feeding, especially in the warmer months. That final hour of darkness before the sun begins to influence the sky is often their last big push to feed before the light sends them deep or into heavy cover. Think about a big walleye moving up onto a shallow rock pile or a monster bass cruising a weed line. They are doing this under the cover of darkness. They are there, in predictable, shallow locations, actively hunting. When you arrive at sunrise, they've likely already eaten their fill and are beginning to pull back from those aggressive feeding zones. Now let's introduce the light shock factor. Imagine you're in a dark room and someone suddenly flips on a bright light. You squint, you're disoriented. The same thing happens in the aquatic world. The change from darkness to bright sunlight can be abrupt and jarring for fish. This sudden increase in light intensity is a signal for many species to cease feeding and seek safety. It's a defensive trigger. Their pupils can't adjust as quickly as ours, and the sudden brightness makes them feel exposed and vulnerable. I've seen it happen countless times on the water. A steady pre-dawn bite suddenly dies as if a switch was flipped at the very moment the sun crests the horizon. The anglers who just arrived are scratching their heads, wondering why the fishing is so tough. They don't realize they've arrived just in time for the shutdown. To really get this, you have to think like a predator. A successful predator never gives up its advantage, and its single greatest advantage is surprise. When is it easiest to ambush prey? When visibility is low and the prey is disoriented. That hour before sunrise is the ultimate ambush time. The big fish can get into positions, super shallow, right up against the bank on top of structures that they would never use in broad daylight. They are there for one reason, to capitalize on the last moments of their nighttime advantage. They are not sunbathing, they are not waiting for you, they are executing a precise, instinct-driven hunt. When you arrive with the sun, you are arriving after the hunt is over. You're trying to catch a fish that has already gone home with a full belly. You need to be there while the hunt is on. I'll tell you about my own aha moment. Years ago, I was meeting a buddy for a trip. I completely misread the time and ended up at the boat ramp a full hour and a half before sunrise. It was pitch black. Instead of waiting in the truck, I decided to just get on the water. I couldn't see a thing, just casting by sound and feel towards a shoreline I knew well. In the 45 minutes before the sky even started to get grey, I landed 3 of the biggest bass of my season. It was incredible. Then, right as the sun started to rise, my buddy showed up. He launched his boat and we fished the rest of the morning together. We caught a few more decent fish, but nothing compared to that pre-dawn flurry. The bite completely changed. That was the day it clicked for me. I wasn't early, I was finally on time. Let's not forget the sound factor. This is huge, and almost everyone overlooks it. When you arrive an hour early, it's not just about the light, it's about stealth. You have time to get situated in the dark. You can launch your boat or walk to your spot, get your gear ready and be in position, completely silent, long before the fish are even aware of your presence. Contrast that with the sunrise arrival. You're often in a hurry, you slam a car door, you drop a tackle box on the aluminum boat floor, you stumble over a rock on the bank. Every single one of those sounds sends shockwaves through the water, especially in the calm morning air. A predator fish in shallow water is on high alert. That unnatural noise is a blaring alarm telling it that danger is near. You've just announced your presence to every fish within 50 yards before you've even wet a line. Building on that, you're spooking the shallows, and this is the cardinal sin of the sunrise angler. The best, most aggressive fish are often cruising in just a few feet of water during that pre-dawn window. They are there because that's where the bait is. When you arrive as the sun is coming up, you are no longer a stealthy hunter. You are a giant, obvious silhouette against a brightening sky. Your shadow is cast long across the water. Every movement you make is easily detected. Those big, wary fish didn't get big by being stupid. They see you, they feel your footsteps on the bank, and they are gone. They quietly slip back into deeper water or bury themselves in the thickest cover. You'll then spend the next hour casting to empty, abandoned water, wondering where all the fish are. They were there, you just scared them away. So, we need to redefine the golden hour. We've all heard that term, but we've been applying it wrong. The true golden hour for fishing is not the hour after sunrise. It is the hour that ends at sunrise. It's that 60-minute window of peak low-light transition. That's when the oxygen levels are high after a cool night, the water temperatures are at their lowest and most comfortable point, and predators have their maximum advantage. It's the perfect storm of conditions for a feeding frenzy. Anglers who show up at sunrise are catching the tail end of it, or more often, they're missing it entirely. By simply shifting your understanding of when that golden hour occurs, you shift your entire approach from being reactive to being proactive. You're meeting the fish during their scheduled mealtime, not asking them to eat when you decide to show up. Let's look at this from the perspective of the food. Think about baitfish behavior, minnows, shad, shiners. They don't just magically appear at sunrise. In the darkness, they are often scattered and seeking cover. As the light begins to subtly increase in that pre-dawn hour, they start to school up and move. This movement makes them extremely vulnerable. It's like a dinner bell for predators. The bass and walleye know that this is the easiest time to corner a school of shad or pick off a stray minnow. They are keyed in on this specific behavior. If you are on the water during this time casting a lure that mimics this baitfish movement, you are presenting a meal at the exact moment the predators are expecting it. When you arrive later, the baitfish have already settled into their daytime patterns, often holding tighter to cover or schooling in deeper water, making them a much harder target for both you and the fish. The temperature game is another critical piece of the puzzle, especially in the heat of summer. Throughout the night, the surface water of a lake or river has had hours to cool down. The lowest water temperature of any 24-hour period is almost always right before dawn. Big fish are slaves to their metabolism. In hot summer water, they are lethargic. They seek out cooler, more oxygenated water. That pre-dawn period provides them with a brief window of comfortable temperatures in the shallow, food-rich zones. This is their chance to feed aggressively without expending too much energy. As soon as that sun hits the water and the temperature starts to climb, they will retreat to the cool depths or the shade of heavy cover. Arriving at sunrise means you're fishing as the water is starting to warm up, not when it's at its optimal cool temperature. Let me paint you a picture, a real-world example from the water. Imagine two anglers, John and Dave, fishing the same lake. John is a believer in the pre-dawn strategy. He sets his alarm for 3:30 a.m. and is on the water in his spot by 4:30. Sunrise isn't until 5:30. For a full hour in the dark, John is casting a topwater popper along a shallow weed bed. He gets 5 explosive strikes and lands 3 big bass. Dave, on the other hand, arrives at 5:15. He gets his boat launched right at sunrise. He heads to the same weed bed, maybe 100 yards from where John was. He throws the same popper, he fishes for 2 hours and gets 1 small bass. Dave leaves thinking the fishing is tough. John leaves knowing he cracked the code. They fished the same spot with the same lure. The only difference was the time. We can even get a little scientific with it and talk about barometric pressure. The barometer is often at its most stable during the final hours of the night. Fish, particularly species like walleye and bass, are incredibly sensitive to changes in pressure. A stable or slowly falling barometer is often a trigger for feeding. The period right before dawn is typically a time of great stability before the sun begins to heat the atmosphere and cause the pressure to fluctuate. This predictable, stable window can create a highly reliable, albeit short, feeding period. By being on the water during this time, you are taking advantage of one more environmental factor that is stacked in your favor. The sunrise angler, arriving as the sun is heating the air and changing the pressure, is stepping into a period of transition and potential instability, which can make the bite much more unpredictable. This strategy isn't just about catching more fish, although that is the main goal. There are other benefits. There is a different kind of peace on the water in the pitch black. It's a deeper solitude. You hear the lake in a way you don't in the daylight. You hear the hoot of an owl, the slap of a beaver's tail. You get to witness the world waking up from a completely different perspective. You see the first faint stars begin to fade, and the first hint of color touch the eastern sky. It connects you to the environment in a more profound way. For me, that experience alone is worth the early alarm. The fact that it also puts me on the best bite of the day is just a fantastic bonus. You're not just fishing, you're truly immersing yourself in the natural rhythm of the lake. Of course, to do this successfully, you need to adapt your gear for the dark. This isn't the time to be fumbling around. Preparation is key. A good headlamp, preferably one with a red light option to preserve your night vision, is non-negotiable. You need to have your rods pre-rigged. Have 2 or 3 combos ready with the lures you plan to start with. Your tackle bag needs to be meticulously organized so you can grab what you need by feel. If you're in a boat, turn on your navigation lights and know exactly where you're going. It's all about efficiency and stealth. The goal is to get into position and be fishing with minimal noise and light discipline. A little bit of planning the night before makes your pre-dawn experience smooth, safe, and incredibly effective. Now, I have to be fair and mention the exception to the rule. Is the sunrise bite always a myth? No, not always. There are times when it can be fantastic. On heavily overcast, cloudy, or rainy days, the low-light conditions of dawn can extend for several hours, and the bite can be strong well after sunrise. In the dead of winter, when the water is frigid, the first rays of sun can actually warm the shallows by a degree or 2 and trigger a bite. So yes, there are exceptions. But for the majority of fishing situations, especially from spring through fall on clear or partly cloudy days, the pre-dawn window is the undisputed champion. The key is to stop thinking of the sunrise bite as the default rule and start treating it as the occasional exception. So, here is the challenge I'm giving you. Just try it once. Pick a day, and instead of setting your alarm for sunrise, set it a full hour and a half earlier. Do the prep work the night before. Get to your favorite spot and be in position, ready to cast a full 60 minutes before official sunrise. Use your ears and your knowledge of the spot to make your casts. Fish through that entire pre-dawn transition from total darkness into that first light. Pay close attention to what happens. Note when you get your bites. I am willing to bet that your perception of the morning bite will be changed forever. You have nothing to lose and a whole new world of fishing success to gain. Take the challenge, I dare you. Ultimately, this all comes down to a fundamental mindset shift. Most anglers are reactive. They show up and hope the fish are biting. They react to the conditions they are given. This strategy makes you proactive. You are no longer just a participant. You are the hunter. You are putting yourself in the right place at the right time to intercept fish during their most aggressive and predictable feeding window. You are using darkness and stealth as your tools. You're not waiting for the bite to happen, you're ambushing it. This change in thinking from "I hope I catch something" to "I am here to intercept them while they eat" is the single most powerful adjustment you can make as an angler. It's about taking control and dictating the terms, and it all starts by getting there before the sun does. So, to wrap it all up, the biggest takeaway is this: that beautiful sunrise we all love is often the closing bell, not the opener. By arriving right at dawn, you are consistently missing the most intense, predictable feeding window of the entire day. The real golden hour, the time of maximum predator advantage, is that final hour of darkness leading up to the first light. This is when big, wary fish are shallow, active, and vulnerable. By simply shifting your arrival time an hour earlier, you go from being a spectator to being an active hunter. You leverage stealth, temperature, and the natural behavior of both predator and prey in your favor. This isn't just a minor tip, it's a paradigm shift that can fundamentally change your success on the water. It's the difference between hoping for a bite and expecting one. Thank you so much for watching. If this video challenged your way of thinking, hit that like button. And be sure to subscribe for more content that cuts through the old myths. Now, I really want to hear from you. What's the earliest you've ever gotten to your fishing spot, and did it pay off for you? Drop your story in the comments below. Let's talk about it.